Facebook, find Bigfoot. 3,000 step trackway in northern Minnesota and Ontario, Canada. Anonymous researcher Jerry Tripson, his professional guide, find a 3-mile trackway of a very large Sasquatch. He confirms on the tracks are in line, performs acts beyond human ability. Whenever the Sasquatch path came toward a downed tree, it always veered to the tree and stepped on it in a sideways manner. Tracks appear to be 17 inches by 6.5, possibly a little larger. Here are 3 clips from the video and a short paragraph on how the tracks were found. For those of you who do not realize that Sasquatch are very real, it's not a debate if they exist, but rather how. One thing is certain, Sasquatch endeavored to find a spot that is inaccessible by humans. This is a spot where there's 6 encounters near Voyageurs National Park. Actually had to go into Canada and back into Minnesota, back and forth, this trackway did. Area is only accessible in the winter, and it's basically in a 5-mile by 5-mile square bog. Here's some video.
What it takes for me to get through here.
This is over my waist, and he's just stepping. I can't even make the step without dragging my feet.
Not even close.
Up and over, up and over, up and over.
There's what it takes a human to get through.
Up and over, up and over, up and over. In line, perfectly in line, every step.
This is the best.
I don't know if anybody's ever seen anything like this. We are miles and miles and miles from anything.
Wow, and it gets better than that. Okay, here is a paragraph written by the researcher. After 1,000 miles searching spread over 2 years, came across a set of very different tracks. The map to the left shows in red the route in on snowmobile. We had to travel over 6 large beaver dams as well as make/invent some creative land portages. The snow depth exceeds 30 inches. All along the way, we saw tracks of every other animal several times over. Eventually, we crossed the trail marked in blue. This is the estimated route of the suspected BF trackway. It travels far beyond what is shown, but to save the chance of the area being recognized, the rest is not shown. In all, I followed the prints on foot through deep snow for approximately 3 miles, determined to find out where they came from and where they went. As I followed the tracks south in the direction they came from, they eventually ended. I suspect whatever made the tracks had slept there while it snowed, and when it left a one-way trail. I then walked back and followed the other direction for 2 miles. At one point, it made a circle, leading me back the way I came for a short bit before moving on. As I followed the trail, I noticed that it would walk along down trees every chance it had. What I found to be very strange was that it always sidestepped along the tree. Eventually, I exhausted to a dangerous level for my location and began a 3-mile hike back, never finding where it went out. Okay, this video clip shows a step onto a log. The stride length is impossible and is way beyond the human range.
Sideways, see this branch under here? Hope you can see it. Step sideways. Oh, look at this. So here's where I step. The next step, way up there. It can't even, I'm 6'2", I can't even, look at this. Like, that's full stretch. And it was all the way up there. There's not even a chance I could do that in my wildest dreams.
All right, Jerry follows it back 3 miles, and here's where they begin.
Nothing else up there. I don't see any footprints going further. These ones look like they both go this way. Would it go up into the trees or something? These footprints, they don't point this way.
The stride length varies dramatically depending upon the terrain. Basically, you can see a slight right to left, but basically it's almost completely in line, and they vary from 15 to 30, 55. This here is about 32 inches between from the heel to the foot. In a couple of the tracks, you can actually see where the big toe slightly farther forward. This is probably the best view of the mid-tarsal break in the middle there, where you can see a pressure ridge. It's very similar to tracks with a large big toe, pretty much square there, and you can see the same mid-tarsal break found in northern Minnesota. Okay, what I'll do is I'll do a general review of the encounters that have happened up in this area. Well, the first encounter happened in 2009, and it involved basically clearing a beaver dam and in draining a swamp. And it was kind of a childish thing to do, but they did it. And in that night, they had some incredibly scary activity that happened. And the next morning, they found basically a human-shaped poop on top of the beaver dam that was equivalent of about 5 pop cans large. It was huge. And the beaver had been busy working on rebuilding the beaver dam that night. They didn't really think too much about it, but it piqued their interest. The next last February, they were snowmobiling and they came across a large path that went across this remote lake, and it ran into a steep hill. And at the top of that steep hill, as they drove their snowmobiles and stopped them, they saw this avalanche kind of come down, almost like covering the path. So they drove their snowmobiles over there, looked at it, and they saw this path going up. Well, they tried climbing it and realized it was unclimbable. And two of the guys were able to grab up. One of them's Jerry Trips. He was able to pull himself all the way up, doing some mountain climbing maneuvers through the heavy snow, and gets to the top with another now researcher. When they get to the very top, they see stacks of dead bodies, basically deer and moose. And now we realize, after visiting there, that what it was a trap. That basically any deer that went along would follow this path of least resistance would end up in would be stymied by this hill. When that happens, they would kind of walk slowly along this cliff, and they basically could be pounced on, and then brought up as a meal. Then the next is probably one of the most interesting things ever. A group of these individuals are on a dock. This is the only cabin on a maybe 6-mile long lake. It was built in the 1920s, and it has been grandfathered in. And they're on this, and they're shining these 20 million candle watt bulbs up at satellites, because it's so bright up. You can see the satellites, and they would focus on it, and they would track the satellite across the sky, and then would stop. Well, after about an hour of doing this, all of a sudden, one of the guys gets off and then moves over to the cabin, steps off the dock. And when he steps off the dock, a large boulder type rock, maybe the size of a basketball, gets hurtled to the trees and lands in the water between him and where the other guys are, and splashes. And then he steps off the dock. What was that? Steps back off the dock, and then another boulder hits. Well, this continues through, and they're talking. They shine the lights in there. They don't see anything. I went up there to investigate and found the boulders, found the size of the rock, and you cannot throw this. A human cannot throw this rock much more than 10 feet. A very strong person. Well, long story short, they proceeded down there as a group, and kind of huddled together and kind of moved their way a little farther forward. And as they kind of moved to this tuft of trees to another tuft of trees near the cabin, another rock is hurled over their heads and whistles kind of through the trees, boom, and lands. So then after that, some whoops, some knocks, both were heard, a whoop reply, a number of knocks, and different expeditions that occurred in this last year. Basically, it's a very good area, and this picture here shows what's likely a territorial marker. Thanks. Congrats on a great find. Facebook, find Bigfoot.